Here is a simple truth to growing an online business, or really any business for that matter, that not many people want to admit. You know that gut feeling that you get after a long day, or really that nagging voice that's like, did I do enough? Or was I focusing on the right things to move the needle in my business? And the uncomfortable truth is that a lot of times we are focusing on the right things, but at the wrong time, therefore making it the wrong stuff. And so the age old question is, how do I know if I'm focusing on the wrong things, or how do I know if I'm focusing on the right things? And so let's look at your business revenue for the last 6 months. Has it steadily grown, or does it look more like this example? And so this is not an example from mine or from any specific clients, but I've been in business myself long enough and I've helped hundreds of people to know that this is commonly what it looks like. No matter where you are in revenue, this is how the fluctuations typically go in a business that's stalled out. And so in this example, November is $14,500 in revenue. October is $21,250 in revenue. September is $12,750 in revenue. August is $17,000 in revenue. July is $16,500 in revenue. And June is $14,500 in revenue. And so the pattern is really clear in this example. And again, in pretty much any stalled out business that I've ever seen, and myself included, this is typically how it goes. And so if we look at what I call the intrinsic value of the processes here, I like to use 6 month running averages. You could do this for 3 months, you could do this for 9 months, for 12 months. I recommend trying to do it for all of the months so you can kind of get a varying degree to see if you are actually growing over time. And so in this example, I took 6 months and then I divided it by six, right? So the intrinsic value of the processes and the skills of you, the entrepreneur running the business, would be $16,000 per month. Does that make sense? And so you can see here there are some months where there's been higher cash flow, some that are a little lower, but the average is over the 6 months is 16,000. And so the more you repeat this process, the more you can kind of see, are you actually growing? Because one good month doesn't mean you're growing. I mean, in the coaching business, you can have like two paid in fulls that month, or you could have been on a podcast and got like a bunch of extra leads that month, right? So 1 month, even 2 months aren't really great indicators to see like, are you growing? What is a really good indicator is doing this process so you can see if you're growing time over time, right? Does that make sense? And so, um, little story on this. So this is back maybe 2 years ago or so, maybe even 3 years ago at this point. Time flies. I did this exact exercise for me where we had some really high revenue months where I did a month where we were like at 80,000. Then I did a month at 60,000. I did a month at, then we had a lower month. It was around like 20 something and then 30. We were all over the place. And I was just like, man, am I focusing on what I need to focus on right now in my business to grow? And when I did this exercise, I did this exact thing, 6 month running average. I found that at the time, the intrinsic value of our processes, like, I took all of the revenue divided by six, was around like $33,000 per month. So despite having like a big month around 80, having a 60K month, a few years back, it like I still intrinsically was like bringing in around 30. You see what I'm saying? And so I knew to get to the next level, at the time I was focusing on all of the wrong things. I was trying to get more traffic and more leads coming in, when in fact that wasn't my problem at all. My problem was actually lead nurture. I just had to do a better job with lead nurture. I had to, have I created a mini video sales letter. I had to tighten up our DM scripts. And there's a few other things that we had to do, like our pre-sales call process and dialing in the hooks on our content. So like that gave me focus to be able to really grow the business. And so I'm going to walk you through this process, right? Because if this is similar to you, and if you have a stalled out business to where you're not actually growing, at least not the way that you want to, why this happens, as we just alluded to, it's like you're likely spending your days on tasks that maybe feel important, but they're not actually moving the needle. And so the real problem is that most businesses are leaking money in one of these five areas. It's either going to be lead generation, getting the right people to notice you; lead nurture, turning that attention into interest; sales conversion, actually converting that interest into revenue; client delivery, turning clients into success stories and them actually staying and paying for the program length; and then client retention, keeping clients coming back over and over and over again. And so one of these is your bottleneck right now. So your job isn't to fix everything, but it is to identify and eliminate that one constraint. And a really simple exercise that you can do to find this, and this is an exercise that I learned from a mentor of mine who learned from Alex Sharfin, really amazing entrepreneur and human being. And he has this exercise called the 5 core functions. And so if you can like rate these 5 core functions in your business on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being like very poor, terrible, and 5 being like excellent, amazing, and then obviously 2 to 4 would be like in between that. Rate your stuff. So in this example here, I have lead gen is at a 3, so that means we're average at lead gen. Lead nurture is a 2, so it's kind of poor. We can improve there. Conversion's 4. It's not excellent, but it's good. Delivery it's good. We could do better. Retention is 5. Amazing. People are staying with us, right? And so if you rate your own business on this, you would be able to see where is the current bottleneck. So in this example, lead nurture seems to be the bottleneck. Could we put some attention into lead gen in this example? Absolutely. We certainly could, right? Can we put some time into conversion and make it excellent? Of course we could. But if we look at this example, we're average. That means we're proficient in lead gen. And we're pretty good. We're good in conversion and delivery. So it looks like the obvious sign here is we've got to put attention into lead nurture. And so now if we can start to look at what project or projects can I do, or what skill sets can I focus on developing or building to help me get better in lead nurture. We're going to go into some foundational things and fundamentals that have helped me grow, and hopefully will help you grow too. But one of the, some of the projects that you can consider here, say you're really struggling with lead gen, like you're getting nobody, you can't contact anybody, like you have no Facebook friends for whatever reason, maybe you smell, I don't know, you're not getting Instagram follower, like you have nobody, right? So like at that point you would want to develop a good lead magnet. You would want to start like maybe Facebook friend requesting, or you would want to start getting booked on the podcast, right? And then you would want to just develop the skill of like figuring out where to locate your leads, building that Dream 100 list, as Russell Brunson talks about, or Chet Holmes, whoever came up with it. You would want to start focusing on things to where you can locate people and network with people and actually start to generate leads. Lead nurture, maybe it's going to be improving your hooks on your content. Maybe you just need to have better hooks to be able to get more people, or better call to actions, right? So it's maybe improving your copywriting. It could be coming up with like a mini video sales letter or some kind of strategic content asset that you can be able to give to your leads to be able to warm them up. Maybe it's starting to host monthly workshops or masterclasses. And if you're already doing some of those things, it could just be getting better at the actual skill set. Instead of just doing it, it's getting better at it, right? It's like a lot of times people are like, Jason, I'm kind of already doing these things, right? It's like I'm doing these things, but I'm not growing. Well, it's like the equivalent of like somebody that's like, well, I'm actually going to the gym. I'm working out and eating healthy. But if like they're still fat, they're obviously not getting results. They're obviously doing things, but they're not doing the right things. Does that make sense? And so when don't let your ego keep you stuck. Don't let your ego keep you stuck, because sometimes our egos will pop in and be like, well, I'm doing things, like I'm posting content, my headlines are good, right? I am, nurturing my leads pretty good. I'm awesome at, it's like, don't let your ego stop you. Right? You have to look at the truth. Just like somebody that's like, I'm going to the gym every day, I'm eating healthy, and like they haven't been losing weight. Well, obviously not. You're obviously doing those things, but maybe you're lifting 5-pound weights at the gym, right? Maybe you're significantly under eating, or maybe you're taking extra like 3 or 4 or 5 or 26 scoops of peanut butter out of the jar, right? It's like, obviously you're not doing something right, or you would be getting results, right? And so the same thing is true in our businesses. Like if you were doing the things right, if you're doing the right things and you're actually doing them in the right way, you would be getting results. You would be growing. And this is true for any of us. So, check the ego at the door if that's what's coming up. So in addition to this, so once you identified like where your biggest bottleneck is, we want to be able to develop a project, which is usually going to be like you developing a skill, building a skill, or maybe building out some kind of process that in your business, right? And this is something that I help all of my students come up with in our one-to-one mentorship program, in the In-Demand Inner Circle, or in our client attraction system. So I'm happy to be able to help if you have any questions on this, help you find what is right for you in terms of where you should be focusing. In addition to this, though, you need to build a solid foundation. This is really freaking important, right? The first thing is you need a crystal clear vision. You got to know exactly where you're heading. Like, what's the destination? Like, A lot of people will like kind of turn their heads to this, like, yeah, I've heard this a million times, right? But it's like the concept of like, do you actually have it? Like, do you have a vague vision or do you actually have a crystal clear vision, right? I was talking with one of my clients, and he's over in the UK, but he's coming to Florida. And so imagine if he was just like, he's coming specifically to St. Pete in Florida. He knows exactly where he's coming. But I was joking with him on a call the other day, and I was like, imagine if you were like, I'm just gonna show up to Florida. I'm going to Florida. It's like that is a vision, that is a destination. You know where you're going. But Florida is a pretty big state. There's a lot of places in Florida. Like it takes 12 hours or so just to drive through the whole state. Not even counting the Keys. If you count the Keys, it'd probably take like 15 hours. And so if you were just like, pilot, drive, fly me to Florida, they would be like, okay, just jump out of the plane here and you'll land somewhere. That's cool. You'll end up in Florida. But like, if you want to actually reach your specific goals, you have to have a very clear vision. And so, that's the equivalent of like my client being like, I'm coming to St. Pete. He knows exactly where he's coming, exactly where he's heading. And so the same is true for you. Do you have a vague vision, or are you really clear on where you're going? Because once you're clear there, the second thing here, foundationally, this is what all successful entrepreneurs know, is you have to have revenue math that actually works for you. You have to understand the exact metrics you need to hit your goals, because just hoping that you're going to get there isn't a strategy. And so once you know that crystal clear vision, like you have a very specific, this is the revenue I want in my business, this is the cash collected, this is the profit, this is the amount of clients, this is what I want to be known for, all of the things that kind of go into creating a really impactful, at least business vision. We can even talk about life vision too, but from at least business perspective here, since that's the topic of this video is on business, it's now you can reverse engineer the revenue math. Right. And so, for example, in my business, and let me try to pull up my exact numbers. I know, and I know this because I've been tracking my KPIs for years. And so if you don't track your KPIs, we'll talk about that in just a second. But if you don't track your KPIs, it's just, you're just going to have to, you're going to have your best educated guess on some of this. And I'll give you some average numbers that you could start with. But I know my exact targets to hit my next goal, right? And so I know I have to be ghosted by 21 people every day. I have to have 6 people tell me no to like joining a workshop or becoming a client or getting onto a call. I'm running ads right now, so uh, take that for what it's worth. I don't tell, like, when people are under usually like 30, 40K per month. I personally didn't run ads then, so but I know I have to spend about $100 a day on ads. That'll get me about 11 leads. We have to DM at least 30 people a day. We have to have 10 meaningful conversations. That's not a ton. And we have to make 3 offers to either a workshop, somebody to trial our program, or to a call. We have to have 1 booking. We have to have one person show. We have to close half of our person. Do the math there. You can't close half, so we have to close we're a few people a week. We'll generate around $3,833, and the time it takes me, because I've calculated this too, it takes me about 4 to 5 hours a day to do that. So that means within 4 to 5 hours a day, I can achieve all of those things if I focus on hitting those numbers. And so going to the like, oh, I don't like to track my numbers. I'm super intuitive. Like, that's awesome. I'm big into intuition too. Like, I make a lot of my decisions off of intuition, but it's also backed by data. And so if you think about like how like actual creation happens, is creation happens from the masculine and the feminine. And so like the feminine is your intuition, your gut feeling, things like that, right? Your creativeness. But the masculine is like the system, the structure, the tracking of your numbers. Because business is both numbers and psychology, right? And so when you can merge the two together, that's when creation actually happens. Go figure, right? And so you want to make sure that you're tracking your numbers and that you can reverse engineer your goals. This is a foundational principle that all successful people know. And if you're a client of mine, like, this is something that I will help my clients do. I will help them reverse engineer the numbers so they know down to a T exactly what they have to do in the KPIs they have to hit to be able to achieve their goals. That way, there's no guessing, and there's a confidence and conviction and really a peace of mind that comes from knowing exactly what you have to do, right? Thirdly is you need an offer that sells itself. So product market fit is everything. If you feel like you're pushing your offer uphill, something's wrong. And I know this from experience very, very well, because I've pushed a lot of offers uphill, and it sucks, And so it's like you may have a great program and you may be an amazing coach, but like I look at your offer is what the market perceives it. So if you think about your ideal client, how do they perceive your offer? How do people in your audience perceive your offer? That's really what matters. And so the promise of your offer, like what is your offer? What is your program designed to help give people? What is your service, whatever you want to call it? What is it designed to help people get? Right? People are at point A right now. Let's say you're in weight loss and they are at point A, they're 50 pounds overweight. They feel like crap. They feel unattractive, not confident, yada, yada. And their point B is like they're down 50 pounds. They can see like their top two abs, now they feel more confident and blah, blah, blah. Point A to point B. The way you communicate your offer should be the bridge for them to get to point A to point B. If they can't see that's the bridge for them, if it's like you don't communicate it in a way that they can see that or they perceive the value in it, it's going to be hard to sell. And so that's why, in my opinion, and at least in my experience, having a really good offer that people want is absolutely key. And so knowing that you have a product, like a program, your offer, right, that matches what the market actually wants, then that if you don't have that, it's going to be really hard to like grow your business. And then outside of that, it's the messaging that resonates. So when you nail this, prospects will say, it's like you're reading my mind, right? It's like you're talking just to me. And maybe you've had that before, you've done it on accident, but like really making sure that you build this into your business is so freaking key. So absolutely fundamental. I remember when this happened to me on accident and I actually built a framework to make it happen on purpose, right? With intention. But I remember having people being like, Jason, like this was back when I was in I had an online fitness business, and they were like, Jason, like I feel like you're reading my mind. I feel like you're speaking directly to my soul right now. And I'm like, because I am. So I'm just like, well, thank you. And I started to really make note of what I was saying during those times. And so you being able to like be able to speak to what's going on in your ideal client's head, right? What are the symptoms that they're experiencing on a daily basis? What are their complaints? Right? What are their wants and their desires and their aspirations, right? Really getting clear and specific on in speaking to what's going on in their mind, right? A great way I like to articulate messaging, like really good messaging, is like, because I have kids, it's like I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, right? And so my 5-year-old son is Jackson, and if I went up to him and I tried to communicate from like a dad mindset, like what's going on in my head to him to get him to like do something that I want him to do, it's usually gonna not work as well. Like he might respect that of an authority, but a lot of times there'll be some kind of pushback, especially if it's like clean your room when he wants to watch TV or something like that, right? But if I speak to him, if I drop down to like how is a 5-year-old thinking, right? And if I'm like, hey, I bet you can't clean your room faster than Chase from Paw Patrol, right, or one of his favorite characters, he's gonna be more likely to do it because I'm speaking to him at his level. And that's what really great messaging is you being able to speak to not what is in your mind as the coach, right, or as the expert, but is speaking to your ideal client and what's going on in their head. When you could do that, it's key. And then the other thing with messaging is really having a unique mechanism, right? So it's like back in fitness, I would teach people like flexible dieting essentially, and I just called it flex fuel nutrition. It was my unique approach to doing it, right? My entire process is called the stubborn fat solution, right? Today, like my messaging, it's called the magic messaging makeover, right? We have a framework for it, right? We have our conversion content campaigns. It's me taking things that I didn't invent, but I have my own experience and I've come up with my own way of doing things. So I've just named it, right? And when you could do that and you're speaking to your ideal client, your messaging is going to resonate and you're going to get way more people reaching out to you. The last couple things here on these foundationals is like having a bulletproof mindset. Hard truth right here, man, is your beliefs will never outgrow, your business will never outgrow your beliefs about what's possible. All of us hold these anchors of beliefs that are maybe got us to a certain point in life or in business, but are holding us back. And so if you can think about and how do you know what your beliefs are? Just kind of look at your reality. Like really become aware and pay attention to what are these reoccurring thoughts that are going through my head. And so if you are broke and you don't have money, you probably have some negative beliefs around money or sales or helping people. Like there's something there that's that's not serving you, let's say. All right, if you are not booking calls or signing up clients, there is some kind of belief that is there on why you're not. Maybe you're like, oh, I don't understand content, or I'm not good at there's some belief that's not serving you. And if you start becoming really aware and writing these, like, what, if you like really question yourself, like you're the attorney to your own mind, you're going to start to notice patterns. And so, and some beliefs may come from freaking childhood. Maybe you have, like, we all go, every human has trauma, right? Trauma, I think the definition of trauma is something along the lines of like, or traumatic event is some kind of, negatively perceived event that happens to us that changes our behavior. And so everybody has that, right? And so, like, a lot of times we have these, traumatic events in our life that change our beliefs and our behavior, and it doesn't serve us. So, like, really being able to like get yourself into a position where you do this. There's something that I have inside my business that I call, or I teach to my clients, that I personally do in my life, and I call it the illusion exercise. It's a very simple exercise, which is like getting clear on like what your beliefs are, and going through a process of really being able to polarize the way your beliefs, so you can help neutralize and move forward. So it's really powerful stuff. And then the last one here is going to be your mastering your money making moves. And when I say master the money making moves, I'm talking about just being pretty good with things like growing your network, like with intention, like knowing how to locate your leads and being able to actually grow your network on a daily basis. Absolutely key. Right? For some of you all, maybe it's like you're doing Facebook friend requesting. Maybe for some of y'all, you're podcast guesting. Maybe some of y'all, you're running IG ads. You're doing IG follow me ads or whatever. It doesn't matter. Everything freaking works, but the thing is, you just got to stick to this stuff, right? It's like when people hop from diet to diet to diet. It's like pretty much like, just if you eat the right amount of calories in the right proportions, and like it's sustainable, it's gonna work as long as you get like better and you're like consistent. And so, like, there's layers to this, right? But the first thing is, like, everything works. So I don't think there's like one magic pill. Like you can like literally go podcast guesting and then drive people to your email list and just get really good at that, and that works. Like, you can run follow me ads and be in the DMs, and like that works. You can do Facebook friend requesting and drive them straight to your Facebook group or to a page, and that works too. Everything works, but the point is like, you gotta like know, you gotta learn how to master just one of these things when it comes to like traffic. Secondly, it's gonna be creating content that converts. Like, maybe you're like, I am creating content, but it's not converting, at least not consistently or at the rate that you want it to convert. And that kind of goes back to like the example that I used earlier on like the gym and working out. It's like, if somebody's like, I am going to the gym and lifting weights, and then you question them and you find out that they've been lifting 5 pound dumbbells for the last month and a half, 2 months, and you're like, oh, did you know that you should probably be lifting like 45? And they're like, oh, really? I thought that this was kind of easy. This is the equivalent here when I'm auditing people's content, and they're like, Jason, I don't know why I'm not getting more leads into my business from my content or my marketing. And I'm like, yeah, because like your headlines suck, and like you're not, like, your call to actions aren't really clear. And they're like, oh, I had no idea. They're like, I just had no idea that this was happening, right? So sometimes we can't read the message, we can't read the label from within the bottle, and that's why I feel like it's important to have outside eyes on your stuff. But when, creating content that converts means like getting good at the skill set of conversion content, of like building strategy, like I teach with our conversion content campaigns. It's getting good at your headlines, your hooks, your call to actions, storytelling, things like that. And then having sales conversations that close, right? It's like, maybe you are having conversations, but you're not booking calls, you're not closing people. And the secret here is just getting really good at communication, making irresistible offers, as we alluded to before, right? This could be like, not just your main offer, but this could be like you offering to get somebody onto a call. Instead of being like, you want to come onto a discovery call? Nobody wants to come onto a discovery call. But if you're like, hey, do you want to come onto like a fat loss assessment call where I'll help you identify the number one thing that's keeping you from like losing fat? Oh, that sounds more enticing, right? And so it's like being able to make any offer that you give people, whether it's a workshop, a master class, offering a call, whatever, you want to make it more irresistible so it's more enticing to people. And of course, delivering exceptional results is an absolute like non-negotiable. And if you want to accelerate your growth, I would recommend, from my experience, studying things like influence. There's a lot of different books out there, like Influence by Robert Cialdini. Expert Secrets is pretty good. Persuasion. I've never read that. I'm actually just ordered it. As I had somebody recommend it. And so I'll be reading that today, but I heard it's really good. Art of Copywriting. I teach a lot about influence and copywriting and storytelling inside of our school community. So let me know if you want to come in there, and I'll give you the details. But just studying like copywriting, studying storytelling, these are really, really big, at least in my experience, have been really big needle movers to helping me just get better results with the money making moves. And use proven frameworks. Like I have a framework that I use for everything for my personal self, right? I have a mindset framework that I use, like the illusion exercise that I just alluded to. I have my content creation frameworks, and I give this stuff to my students as well. I have DM conversation frameworks. I have workshop delivery frameworks. I have sales conversation frameworks. I love frameworks because they give my brain, it allows me to like be able to like know I don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. And then I could just kind of focus on just getting better at the skill sets, right? So it's just a little hack here is follow frameworks versus trying to reinvent the wheel. And the truth nobody's talking about is like growing a profitable business isn't complicated. We, all of us, myself included, we make it that way. Whether it's old programming, we're simply not knowing better, we overcomplicate what should be simple. And so the path forward is really clear. Find your biggest bottleneck, create a plan to fix it, execute with relentless focus, measure results, master or at least become pretty good at the fundamentals that I just shared, and then repeat. Stop trying to do everything and then start doing the right things in the right order at the right time. The choice is yours. You can let another 3, 6, 12 months go by where you're on this revenue roller coaster, or you can truly like buckle down, and have focused growth towards your goals. What do you choose? What do you choose? So I hope you found this video, this episode really, really helpful and really, really valuable. If you have any questions for me, if you're listening to this on YouTube, you can drop in the comment section below. Happy to answer any questions that you have. If you did find this helpful, make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss out on any more of these videos. As always, remember your message matters now more than it ever has before. Don't be afraid to speak it. As always, be seen, be heard, and be impactful.